Founder of White Girl Advocacy, Melissa Whiteford St. Clair found herself emotionally affected by the rise of social injustice in the U.S. She shares her message of unity and social justice through interactive advocacy workshops, anti-racism efforts, poetry readings, and talks. She has published 2 books on poetry. I am sure she's going to tell you all about them. And she's also a contributing poet to South Carolina Bards Poetry Anthology. Melissa, your calling matters. Your calling is important, and we're happy to welcome you to the BRI Talks stage.
So I have a question for everyone. How are your listening skills? Let's consider these facts culled by transforminc.com. 85% of what we have learned is through listening, not talking or reading. 75% of the time we are distracted, preoccupied, or forgetful. And most people are uncomfortable with silence and can only last less than 10 seconds before having to stop and ask a question or do something to break the silence. These are the facts based on a conversation with another human. What about the voice of God? I'm Melissa Whiteford St. Clair, and my session will focus on 50 years on mute, how I found my voice by listening to the voice of God, where I'll be sharing what it means to answer a calling. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" And I said, "Here I am, send me." I had a strong call towards social justice in 2020. As a white woman informed by whitewashed curriculums, I began a course of study for white people committed to learning more about racism and systemic racism. Through a godsend, I discovered the power of poetry as a means of expression and transformation, and found my voice in the fight for social change and equity. Thank you for joining me in this exploration of my path, a journey that began in faith, led me through the joys and challenges of a military lifestyle, and ultimately guided me toward advocacy for social change. I stand before you today with gratitude and a profound sense of purpose. The journey from a small rural town in Maryland to becoming an advocate for social change has been remarkable, marked by divine guidance, life-changing encounters, and a transformative commitment to change and equity. I know that in my lifetime, God has been instrumental in placing people on my path for various reasons. Some of them are on this Zoom. In the tapestry of my journey, I see the hand of God weaving a divine thread that connects each step, each encounter, each revelation. I have gone from being the shy one in the room to becoming an advocate for social change and taking my advocacy through poetry to open mic, a call I could not have imagined for myself, and now I cannot ignore. My journey began in a rural community in Harford County, Maryland. My family has a long history in the community where I was guided in my faith as I grew. And like a Hallmark small town story, I married my high school sweetheart who was commissioned into the United States Marine Corps. During my military spouse's nearly 30-year career, I leaned on my faith and family and friends to guide me through the celebrations and trials of a military lifestyle. I was a military spouse during an era where we advocated quietly to get our needs met when presented with issues regarding military housing, healthcare, etc. I am so proud of today's military spouses who lift their voices about lifestyle concerns, and I continue to be an advocate for military spouse employment. Frequent moves did not allow me to remain with an employer for long. In 2006, the entrepreneurial bee stung me. Creating a flexible career that could move with me was my goal. I wanted continuity in my career to feed my continuing deep desire to help others and my family. I also needed control of my schedule to be available for military spouse obligations. I found a way to do the work I love on my terms. Virtual assistants were just becoming a viable option with technology advancements, and I sensed this would be an excellent option for me. So Paper Chaser Biz was born, and I was able to onboard my first client, an agency I had been working with in a previous job. Through prayer, intuition, and the right people showing up when I needed them most, I created a fulfilling business. After 30 years of supporting my husband and military families, we settled in South Carolina. My life has always been steeped in history and tradition. Our new community was also filled with a rich history we were eager to explore. Is it a coincidence that the right people show up at the right time? I don't think so. I call them God winks. Some people think I'm lucky. I do have a knack for finding four-leaf clovers, but I know things would have gone differently without a strong belief in God and dedication to my faith. God continued to create a path for me that led me to advocate for social change, utilizing poetry as a processing mechanism and communication tool. This unusual trajectory of my desire to help others can only be the work of God in my life. My journey to becoming a social change advocate began on May 25th, 2020, with the death of George Floyd. I'm sure that name is familiar to many of you. I remember the day so vividly because it was also my wedding anniversary. My husband and I love celebrating our anniversary. May 25th, 2020 was already tainted by the recent pandemic stay-at-home orders, but also by the televised coverage of a video of George Floyd dying under the knee of a police officer in Minneapolis. It was hard to process. A stirring in my soul began to arise. At that time, I had no idea how it would change me. And you don't know what you don't know. I was introduced to the creator of the program on the matter of race, White People Committed to Beginning the Journey Together with Dr. Lynn Maureen Hurdle. I was accepted into the program for the first 6-month course in September 2020. The program was enlightening, informative, and challenging. At the end of each session, we had homework. With the love of learning, I was no stranger to homework. However, processing all the information and feelings it stirred within me was difficult. Whether it was unconscious or God-driven, I began to process my homework through the lens of poetry. And I would like to share a poem about my journey in deep. Ankles deep, I go on the journey. Knee deep, I pray for equity. Hip deep, I run to the truth. Waist deep, I wade in the water. Chest deep, I feel my heart drum. Shoulders deep, I carry on. Head deep, I use my words to reach. I dove into studying and seeking knowledge to understand the African American experience throughout history. Living in the South gives me many opportunities to visit areas that provide eye-opening experiences. Harriet Tubman inspired me in my early studies. We were both born in Maryland, which also intrigued me and made me want to learn more about her history. I quote Harriet Tubman, "I said to the Lord, I'm going to hold steady onto you, and I know you will see me through." After completing the first level of the program, I had quite a compilation of poetry. I shared my poetry with my husband and a dear friend independently, and within a week of each other, they both said, "You've got to do something with this." I felt the undeniable words of God being delivered by the two dearest people in my life. Following this divine guidance, my first book of poetry, Homework, A collection of poems sparked by one white woman's journey on the matter of race was published on Harriet Tubman Day, March 10th, 2021. I published my second book of poetry, Heartwork, on Valentine's Day in February of 2023. After that, sitting in church, I asked God, what's next? The answer came quickly, a workbook, White Girl Homework, which contains all the poems of homework, a history lesson, reflective questions, and lots of pages for the user's own creative writing response. That book was published on Harriet Tubman Day, March 10th, 2024. The nudge to do more and step outside my comfort zone became clear. I prayed and prayed to be sure the message was correct. Remember, I'm a behind-the-scenes person, supporting in the background. So it took a lot of prayer and preparing myself to begin taking my words to share at open mic nights and other public events. This once silent woman actually enjoys sharing her poetry and message in a public format. Now that certainly is a God wink. Are you beginning to see how listening to the voice of God, I found my voice? Opportunities appear in amazing ways as I partake in this journey. While working with a faith-based author and speaker coach, White Girl Advocacy was born. And some people scratch their head about that title, White Girl Advocacy. Well, I'm a white girl and I'm an advocate. It's pretty simple. So that ministry uses education, social media, speaking opportunities, blog, poetry, videos, poetry readings to share my journey for social change. Poetry holds a unique importance to many people for various reasons. It's like a mirror that reflects the world's beauty and its flaws. And through the rhythm of words of poetry, I have found a way to channel my thoughts, emotions, and experiences. Poetry transcends boundaries and speaks to the heart in ways prose often does not. Along the way, a first-time acquaintance gifted me a copy of the New Testament, a Gullah translation of the New Testament of the Christian Bible. And I have it here. I had a profound reaction to this gift, and I knew this would become a big part of my daily devotions. That experience was a reinforcement that my work in this ministry is 100% God-led. After 50 years on mute, I now use my voice because I listen to the voice of God. Here's a thought from the daily devotional guide, The Upper Room. God is always speaking to me. I will listen and respond. I would like to share one more poem with you, and that poem title is Reconcile. I am white, the color of oppression. My face itself is a microaggression, though I will never be able to walk a mile, and conflict leaders inform me to do more than smile. I am on a journey to reconcile. Before I close, I would like to take you up the Chesapeake Bay where it meets the Susquehanna River and travel to Harford County to Maryland, to a farm along the Mason-Dixon line. There is an even deeper reason for my activism. My sixth great-grandfather was an enslaver. While I cannot change the past, I can do the work to honor the lives of 5 people enslaved by my white ancestors by saying their names aloud. Jane, Dina, Jean, Jess, and Jack. This is my journey. I am continuing to do my white girl homework. I encourage you to keep listening for the voice of God. Psalm 37:4, listen to God in the silence of your heart and you will know his perfect plans for you. I invite you to visit whitegirladvocacy.com to learn more, find my books, and find all the social links to connect with me. Please let me know if there's another group who might benefit from hearing my journey for social change or my ministry of advocacy through poetry, a poetry workshop, or a deeper dive of White Girl homework. Thank you, Terry Lee and BRI Talks, for the opportunity to share my journey with your audience.